Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one! Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you, of course, from high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Wednesday, November 9th. Dustin Schutte from Outsider.com alongside, as always, John, the producer, at the wheels. Hope you guys are making it through. We've made it through the halfway point of the week. And how about, did you see Hartford's basketball coach quit the day before the season?
I did not see that.
And it does not look good on Hartford, because he basically put them on blast. We'll get to that. On the program today, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. You think he might have something to say about the Colts?
He might. He might have a few thoughts on the Colts.
As Jim Coyle was named interim, Jeff Saturday was named interim coach for the Indianapolis Colts with zero collegiate nor NFL, other than farting around. I don't think he has any coaching experience. But we'll talk to Bob about that and much more. The Hoosiers as well. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us. High school playoffs into the deep portion. Rick Bozich. We'll have all kinds of stuff to talk to him about with Indiana. Of course, he was at the game the other night. And everything else that's going on in the sports world. College football playoffs. Yeah. Let's talk about those rankings. We'll do that as well.
I was shocked.
Oh, yeah, me too. Don't forget, we're brought to you by our good friends from Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. You can just reach out to them, AndyMooreHonda.com, where you will always find the best deals on new and used vehicles. And, of course, Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club. Go to your Apple app or Google App Store. Start earning wow rewards today to great places like BB's Market, who has the best meats, the best bakery. They have their bacon. Oh, I had that yesterday. Yeah. Yum. Don't get me started. I have not had anything to eat today yet. Yes. Where did I just leave off of a second ago, Dustin?
The
college football rankings.
Yes.
Yeah. How about that? Let's see. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, and TCU.
Shocking.
Yes, that should be the top four. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a week late. Is this not the exact top four that should have been 1 week ago?
Well, yes and no.
Pretty much. What do you mean yes and no?
Well, Tennessee was undefeated last week. So
okay,
I
can put Tennessee in the 4th spot.
And then TCU number 5.
Yeah, I would have been fine with that.
Yeah,
and actually, I thought that's where it should have been, to be honest with you. So yeah, I do thank you for that one correction. But this is the top order of the top 3. But the reason, and Tennessee should have been 4th. But the reason that is important, because now they're 5th. Had they been 4th, they would be 8th.
Right.
They're now, as soon as Tennessee and Michigan Michigan and Ohio State play, Tennessee's right back in the top 4 after getting shellacked by a team that do they even have a tough SEC game the rest of the way?
They do not. They have Missouri, which is 4-5. South Carolina is okay, and that game's on the road, so that might be a test. South Carolina 6-3, and then they close out the season with Vanderbilt. So you got 2 give-me's, and then maybe a challenge.
So they're giving Tennessee a walk into the freaking top 4. That's what aggravates. They should not have been up in the. How the hell do you have a team that's, these guys are number 1? They got drilled. So A, they should not have been number 1, and B, they need to be dropped from where they should have been, not to where you mistakenly had them, in my opinion. That's why there's too many people that are voting on this committee, in my opinion, that are voting in ways that benefit themselves, whether they're on from a particular conference or whatever it is. But this, until we go to 12, I guess I might as well just stop bitching and moaning, because this is no different than it has been.
Mike DeCourcy has a great saying with this. It's not a playoff, it's an invitational. Until you expand to 12 teams and until you allow automatic bids. He said this for years now. I know most recently the past couple of years. I think he said it since the start. But the point being is, you're exactly right, Jim, because Michigan and Ohio State will play each other.
I've been hearing that a lot lately, and I'm not used to that, Dustin.
Well, soak it in now, because we don't know how long it'll last.
I had 2 IU football coaches tell me that in the post-game press conference, or in the presser the other day.
Maybe you should coach the team.
And still didn't get the answer. But go ahead, please.
No, but the point is that Michigan and Ohio State, one of those teams obviously has to lose. Tennessee's going to sneak right up in there. They're going to benefit by not playing in the SEC championship game. And that is absurd to me. It's been that way. Look, it happened to Ohio State in 2016 when Penn State won.
They won't even finish first in their own division.
Right. And this happened with Ohio State in 2016. It happened with Alabama, and it was either 2017 or 18. To me, if you don't at least play in the conference championship game. Now, last year when Georgia got beat by Alabama and both teams made it, I actually was okay with that because Georgia was undefeated. I don't remember. I think Alabama maybe had 1 loss. But at least they had to play in that championship game. You shouldn't get preferential treatment because you're sitting out that final week.
I understand it, but we've seen it happen a lot with the Big Ten East, overloaded as it is with Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State.
Yep.
Just a couple of years ago, when they were all 3 in the up in the top 12 or what, they were all right there, which they usually are a lot. But obviously, you play once, and once you play that game, boom. And you're going to be knocked out of the conference championship. And so you could have many times we've had Wisconsin playing. Well, it's been Ohio State 90% of the time, or Michigan, but obviously many of those times Wisconsin was not the second best team in the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah, I mean that's probably fair. I would say maybe half the time, because there have been times. There have been times when Michigan or Penn State was maybe the second best team, maybe a time when Michigan State. But for a lot of the time, you look at the records, and Wisconsin has been, at least from a record standpoint, the second best team. Now that you'd have to go back and look at the schedules and see what the balance was there in terms of who played who and all that. The Big Ten typically, I don't think, look, there is a chance that the Big Ten and the SEC both get 2 teams in, both from the same division. Could you have 2 SEC East and two SEC East and 2 Big Ten East teams? Yes, you could. The other thing that's very concerning here is I don't know about concerning, that might be overstating it, but LSU at 7-2 is number 7. Alabama at 7-2 is number 9. They are 4 spots ahead of any other team with 2 losses, which is Utah at number 13. So they continue to boost the SEC in these regards. I don't think that there should be that much of a difference between those teams, but I mean, whatever. We've gotten to this point now where we know that basically it's based on recruiting rankings, and that's just how it goes. But at least for now, I do think that they got the top 4 correct.
Well, it's kind of hard to screw it up this time. They basically fell into place.
You're right, but at the same time, I thought Tennessee would be number 4.
Believe you me, if anybody could screw it up, it would be this committee. Who all is on this committee? Normally we know because remember our good friend Gary Barta was the head of it a few years ago.
Yeah.
College football. Because many times they have people on it that just aren't sports people. And I'm like, what? It's like having me on a medical board.
Well,
seriously,
I mean, medical, it's true.
Medical. This is a doctor assessment board. What the hell are you going to have me on there for? What the hell do I know about being a doctor?
Right.
Nothing. But oh yeah, let's put me on there.
Well, and at one point there was, I don't think this is the case any longer. I think it's a little bit more equitable. But at one point there were like 4 or 5 that had SEC ties.
Rice. How about Condoleezza Rice? That was always my favorite.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
That if that just didn't show the ignorance.
Well, some people would make the argument that you want somebody who didn't have a bias, didn't maybe have a background in sports, and it's like, what are we talking about here? You should have a background in something in order.
But
to
you should
be
go
on that
outside.
committee.
I think you would have to go outside of maybe to the NFL, but those guys don't have, or you hire guys like from NFL guys, you hire guys to be on a committee, but that's not going to matter now because once they get to 12 teams.
Right. Yeah. And that's the best solution. There is no right answer for having a committee. Once they have 12 teams, then this is what I always say about the NCAA and the college football playoff committee. Like, college football is, you can throw gymnastics and other sports in here too. So, but by and large, college football is the only sport where opinion matters. And to me, that's a problem. Like, the NCAA tournament, there's a selection committee, but also at the same time, you know what you have to do to guarantee a spot in the field. You have to win your conference tournament, or if you don't have a conference tournament, you have to win your league in the regular season. And if you don't do that, you leave it in the hands of the committee. Way more in favor of that method than just, well, here's 4 teams here. Let's try to pick the best 4, because the criteria changes depending on the team.
I'm trying to, it's taken me quite some time to find who is on this stupid committee. Seriously.
I used to know, but I can't find the records anymore.
But it says the committee members included 1 current athletic director from each of the 5 major conferences. Also known as the Power 5. Other members are former coaches, players, ADs, and administrators, plus a retired member of the media. Yeah, I would like to see the dynamics of.
Why would it have to be a retired member of the media?
Maybe not actively covering any particular. It would have to be a national person.
I would still just have people from who cover teams in different regions. You can mix it up every year. So you'd have one guy who covers a team in the SEC, maybe a woman who covers a team in the Big Ten. You can do it for all of the power conferences or something.
Yeah. Just get it to 12. We don't have to worry about it. We got to take a break because Big Bob's coming up next. We got plenty to talk about with him. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Looking forward to that. Make sure you stop by BB's. Especially on Fridays when we're there live doing the show. Come in and have a meal on me. An excellent meal, no less. Bacon. It's on my mind. BB's bacon. That's something to talk about now.
We need that crunch of the bacon on a disc so we can just play it anytime you talk about BB's.
Dude, it was perfect yesterday too. It was perfect. I made it perfectly. Anyway, we got lots more coming up. Kyle Neddenriep, Rick Bozich joins us later. Bob Knutson. Bob, the guy I used to rope with. Bob Kravitz up next here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting.
And then there was one. Hey, Jim, I don't know when you're going to want to use this, but I've got that picture you sent last night. Good morning, Senior Kravitz.
Good morning, Senior Alden. See, nothing's happened this week.
Yeah, nothing important.
I can't hear Dustin.
Oh, he got himself muted.
Oh, Miles Turner joined the 1,000 Block Club. That's what's happening.
That's exciting.
Whew, 5-5. I'm excited, Bob. I can't get behind the tank now. Can't get behind it.
I know. They're fucking it all up.
The entire city of Indianapolis is going to tank. What are you talking about?
But, man, they are so fun to watch.
They are. They move the ball. They play unselfish basketball. Excuse me.
We have Chris on here on Thursdays. I think a week or two ago I said it's got to be night and day comparing the last couple years where it was just everybody had no emotion. Get the ball to Sabonis, let him bank it off the glass 14 times a game.
Right.
Ugh. And now it's I don't win, lose, or draw. They're fun.
Yeah, they are fun. I'm gonna try to go tonight. I want to see what Miles does against Jokic.
Oh yeah, that's right, Denver,
yeah. See some old buddies.
There you go.
Scotty Hastings. Hey,
how's the golf game?
Dustin, do you have one of these type tape recorders?
I do, but it's not. It's probably even lower tech than that. It's mine's very basic.
I did a big interview the other day, and I can't find it anywhere on my damn tape recorder.
Oh,
but I know it's on there.
Let me suggest something. The phone, baby. No, I'm serious.
I usually use a phone, but it's a phone interview, so you can't tape a phone interview. So I use my tape recorder, and I can't fucking
20
find
seconds.
it.
Well, there are apps, that will record your phone conversations.
I know. Well, it's too late for that. I got to find this thing.
Can you plug it into your laptop and then I can
we'll discuss it later.
Yeah,
here we go, Matt.
Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is hump day. Speaking of humps, we got our favorite one, Bob Kravitz.
Nice intro. Nice intro.
What a segue, baby. What a segue. Damn,
yeah, that was pretty weak.
Oh, come on, man. No. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic joining us, of course. Nothing going on this week. I heard you say that. I was going to say the same thing in the break. It's like, yeah, not much happening for you this week. Pacers, they keep trying along. The Colts, they're playing, lose. Oh, yes. They fired their coach and named me as interim head coach. I mean, no, Jeff Saturday is it as interim head coach.
Yes, I'm going to be the special teams coordinator.
Would you have been more surprised if I had been named interim coach than you were that Jeff Saturday was named interim coach?
This totally came out of the blue. I mean, you think of, look, Jeff Saturday is a great, great human being. Excuse me. He knows football, but he's never done this except at the high school level. It is absurd. This is like having your general practitioner doing open heart surgery. I mean, Parks Frazier is a 30-year-old guy who was an assistant to Frank Reich, and he's going to call the plays. This is a tank. They can, if it walks like a tank and it quacks like a tank, it's a tank, and they can deny it all they want. But this, to me, is a very clear effort to bottom out and go get themselves Stroud or C.J. Young or Hendon Hooker or whoever they end up picking in the NFL draft. And I think it's really it's bad news. It's not a good look for the Colts. It's not a good look for the league.
I thought they were already tanking.
Well, they're already going south. But when you commit to Sam Ehlinger, although Irsay told me last night they're not committed to him for the whole year, that they may actually go back to Matt Ryan once his shoulder heals.
Well, especially if they want to tank, they need to go back to Ryan.
Well, you're guaranteed a tank if you stay with Ehlinger. Those guys aren't any good, but I think you have a puncher's chance against some bad teams like the Raiders. But, look, I love Sam Ehlinger. He's a great young guy, been through the ringer emotionally the last couple of years. I root for him just the way I root for Jeff Saturday, but I don't see it happening, boys.
Well, one of the things that I thought about when they made this announcement after the befuddlement subsided was I wondered if the Colts are trying to, I don't know, hide the tank, but are they trying to create some excitement? This team has been so boring and so bad. I mean, they got blanked by the freaking Jaguars. So are they trying to create some sort of positive PR? Because Jeff Saturday is still a beloved figure in Indianapolis for his decade plus on the Colts. I mean, do you think that played a decision? There's no other way this makes sense.
Well, I think the way it makes sense is that they're looking at Jeff Saturday to be an objective observer who's going to come in and be the eyes and ears for Jim Irsay and tell him what the hell is going on. And what's really been going on since they lost the Raiders game last year. I mean, they're 3-5-1 now. They lost their last two games, so 3-7-1 from a team that had won 8 out of 9 with Carson Wentz prior to that. So I really think Jeff is going to be a very highly paid mole.
Do you think that is his purpose, total purpose, and that they have plans to hire a coach with experience after this is over?
I think that's the long-term plan. I mean, look, if he pulls off some kind of miracle, then they'll consider him long-term. I just don't see that happening. I mean, you look at the history. I'm going to write about this later this week. The history of interim coaches is miserable. And as Rick Venturi told me, when you take over a bad team, they don't just become good when they throw another guy on the sidelines to be the head coach. They'd like to see Saturday have success. But look, it's not a PR move just because I think smart people look at it and say, yeah, Jeff Saturday, great guy, great TV dude, whatever, but he's got no experience. This is hard. And it's a slap in the face to everybody on the staff. And it's you had 2 former head coaches that are on this staff, or 3? Right. They've got 2. They got John Fox and they've got Gus Bradley. And you got some up and comers like Bubba Ventrone, who's been considered for other jobs. So, if I'm them, I'm like, screw this. I'm probably out of here at the end of the year anyway.
Well, if Jim Irsay's total reason for putting Saturday in the role that you described, which makes sense because they have screwed it up 6 ways from Sunday lately. So if you're going to fix it, it's like, screw it. This season's done. Fix it. If his job is to go in there and be the mole, then that makes perfect sense to me. The season's over. This team, you're not going to fix this offensive line.
No,
you're not going to fix the quarterback situation. It is what it is. So
they honestly, I talked to Irsay last night, me and Mike Chappell, And he really thinks, I mean, I said, Jim, it looks like you're tanking. It just looks like a tank. And he went off. And the quotes are in the Athletic today. But if you're trying to tank, this seems like a really good way to do it. You know,
Right.
Get rid of Naheem Hines, change your quarterback so you go to a 6th round guy who's never played, bring in an inexperienced coach, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, again, if it walks like a tank and it quacks like a tank, it's a tank.
Well, see,
Well,
to
the
me,
last time they did this, Dustin, it worked out very well for them. Who'd they end up with?
The last time they did this? What?
Well, the
last time they tanked when Peyton got hurt and they brought in Curtis Painter and Kerry Collins.
That was not a purposeful tank, guys.
I get it.
Right.
I get it. But if you're going to do it, I mean, and with where they are, Dustin, look who they ended up with and where that led up until.
Look, this will, like we keep talking about the Pacers tanking, and they're doing a horrible job of that. But and I wrote this in my column, in the long term, this will probably work out best for the Colts because they're going to be in a top 5, top 7 position, one would think, if the season continues on this trajectory, and they're going to get one of the top quarterbacks. So long term, it makes sense, but it's a really, really bad look. And Jennifer just asked, how long does Ballard have? I think he's done at the end of the season. If he doesn't quit first, because he's been emasculated by the owner, who is on some kind of decision-making bender, where I don't know if he's power mad all of a sudden or whatever, but anyway, so I'm just looking at the notes coming in. People try to help me with my tape recorder. That's funny.
Actually, that's one I have used. As a matter of fact,
I'm going to use something else from now on, because I can't find the damn thing anywhere. But that's neither here nor there.
Well,
but yeah,
here's my only suggestion. I couldn't get to it in the break. If you're able to plug it into your laptop, I'm able to bring all those documents up, and then it'll ask if I want to download them to my laptop. If you're able to do that, maybe.
Okay, I think I have that capability.
Dustin, what do you what your thoughts on the Colts?
Sorry, guys.
Well,
I interrupted Dustin a minute ago.
Oh, it's okay. My only thought with the PR, now that Bob explained, you think that Jeff Saturday is kind of in that mole role. That makes that's a good saying, by the way. That makes a lot more sense to me. My only thought was you don't want apathy to set in, so they hired a guy who's going to – at least the town is going to support. It would be the equivalent of if the Pacers were 10-45, fired Rick Carlisle, and then brought in Reggie Miller. People are going to go to the game to support Reggie Miller. That's just initially what I thought the move kind of was. But your theory makes way more sense as to – Let's get a 360 view of the or 3,000 foot view of the Colts. What are the problems? What are the issues? From he's got ties to the program, or to the franchise, but he's not on staff. He can give you a more unbiased opinion.
Right, but I'll tell you what: if you're excuse me, if you're DeForest Buckner or Grover Stewart, or any of these guys who are absolutely balling out, especially on the defense, how does that make you feel? You have to feel like you've been undermined. You have to feel like your owner has left you on your own devices. At least there's professionalism if you bring in Bradley. There's no PR gain. But you bring in Bradley or Fox, at least you have somebody who's been there and done that. So, yeah, it's out of the box, but I love Jeff, but I think it's going to be a disaster if you really want to know the truth.
And you know what? They're already at disaster mode now, so that wouldn't be much of a fall off. And
that's true. I mean, how much?
And the rewards are great
on third down. I mean, 121 yards of offense, 0 for 14 on third. That was the worst offensive performance since 1997, which was the year before Peyton got here.
Risk versus reward, baby. They just need to get they've got to get one of these quarterbacks that they can put in, get and install and have for the future. This rotating thing has just not worked, or they've made mistakes. Trying to getting a veteran, I get it, but it seems like they're getting that veteran just a tick too far on the backside of his backside.
Yeah.
It's not like they're just over the hill. They're like down the hill and gaining momentum.
Well, I mean, the thing that's so frustrating about this season is you came in thinking the offensive line would be just fine. Yeah, they lost Glowinski. They let Eric Fisher go, Chris Reed. But none of those guys were great players. You still had the big three. You still had Quentin Nelson. You still had Braden Smith. You still had Ryan Kelly. Those guys make a ton of money. The Colts spend a higher percentage of the cap on the offensive line than any other team in the National Football League. And for them to have regressed so completely is mind-boggling. And nobody seems to have a real clear answer for why that's happened. I asked Irsay last night. He said, well, I've got my ideas, but it's not something he wanted to share. But something has happened to this team spiritually, physically, every way imaginable since that Raiders loss last year.
It's funny because the IE football team is actually in worse shape than the Colts.
They are.
Because the Colts can make moves. The Colts can do things to change quicker than say Indiana.
There's not a lot of alternatives. The trade deadline's passed. They don't have many alternatives. They can.
Well, I mean, Indiana's stuck because they've got a $20 million buyout that they would have to fork if they were wanting to make any change. Again, I'm not suggesting that they do that or are doing that, but that's not even going to be a question because of this buyout. So you're looking at another season. We're not even done with this one, but that you're going to have another season like this or worse, because I'm not sure what the portal is going to look like after the season for Indiana. They're going to lose some key guys.
Yeah, but they did have a really good recruiting class. What was it, last year? And
but
this will be the second year for those guys. So maybe they, a hell of a lot more about it than I do.
Recruiting's down though now.
I have studiously avoided Indiana football because I'm just writing the same column every single freaking time.
Yep.
Well, and you're not. I just wonder the guys that they Dave McCullough. I'm going to be shocked if he is not at Notre Dame next year.
Right.
I was surprised that he wasn't there already. I'll be to be truthful with you. But the scary thing is Indiana can get worse before it gets better. That's the sad truth. It can get worse before it gets better because they made no changes in regards to the offensive line before coming into this season, and it just continued to get worse before they made that change. But I don't know. I don't know how are you going to lure people here next year. How do you say, hey, come here, come play here?
Tom Allen's not going anywhere, right?
That's what I'm saying. With the position they're in from a buyout standpoint, I don't see any. Now he's going to have to make changes, I think.
Oh yeah,
there has to be
massive.
And I don't know who you start with, because on both sides of the ball, defensively, while Chad Wilt is given the title of DC, Tom Allen's calling the plays, and they've regressed. They've regressed from last year when it was bad, but they had a lot of injuries. This year they don't have as many injuries, but they're worse than they have been. And then of course on the offensive side,
well, I think what hurts them too, guys, is they play up tempo and they have a terrible offense. So the defense is out there constantly. Right. If I was IU, I would ditch this up tempo BS and play it straight and at least try to shorten the game. I mean, if you can't match up with teams, and IU clearly cannot, except for, a rare few, I would slow the game down, take some time off the clock, and give your defense a chance to catch its breath. I mean, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I also think that there's been a huge lack of identifying talent and developing that talent.
No, that's clear.
Just look at the quarterback. I think that they've continued to make decisions. You went with Connor Bazelak, which was fine, but he's completed about 50% of his passes all year.
Right.
Maybe that's offensive line. I don't know. But Dexter Williams doesn't get not only does he not get the start last week, he's not even the backup to the backup. And I'm like, wait a minute. And it made no sense. You've got Josh Henderson, who is the best running back, but not the featured back, doesn't get the carries, only averaging 7 carries per game. And just between those two guys last week, they put out about 70 yards on 11 carries.
Mm-hmm.
By far Indiana's best production, but yet they don't get carries. I mean,
right.
And you ask why, and it's like, well, there's no reason given. And so I don't agree with what they're doing as far as identifying the guys they need to use, Dustin.
Here's what I would say. I'm going to go back to the Tom Allen thing and his status as the IU head coach. The thing I would say is go back and look through the history of college football. How often Chad Powers mug.
That's for Bob. Think fast, run fast.
How often does it work out where you keep the same head coach, but you make wholesale changes to your staff? I can think of one example, and it was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh, 2021. That's the only example I've got. It doesn't, and it's probably not going to work at Indiana.
I can think of one other one, Dustin, but it didn't end that way. It was at Nebraska.
Right. No. That's what I'm saying. It's not successful. So you're going to have to pay these assistant coaches a buyout.
Right.
Then you're going to have to hire new coaches at a better salary. And if it doesn't work out, which it won't, because it never does, you're going to have to then pay a buyout plus more buyouts for the assistant coach. So if I'm Scott Dolson, I would look at the history of how often does this stuff work out, and it doesn't, and then make your decision. Either you
There's
keep
not
the
going to be a
staff,
decision made.
Either you keep this, but I'm saying you can't tell Tom Allen to make wholesale changes because it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah.
Either you stick with him and the staff, and if he wants to make a specific change, that's fine. But you can't force his hand and say, get rid of the entire offensive staff, get rid of the entire defensive staff. It's not going to work. Either you stick with him and allow him to make the decisions, or you cut ties and you start looking for a new head coach. Those are your only
2024. 2024. That is the year the new TV deal kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
That will double Indiana's take from the Big Ten network from roughly 50 million to 100 million. That will give them a better opportunity, I think, if they are going to make a change. If that happens, if this doesn't end up being successful, then they will have some more resources, I think. But they're going to have to make a decision if they do that to make an all-out effort into football, or you're in this day and age, you're going to continue to be an also ran.
Yeah.
Not only will you be an also ran, I think you may be below an also ran if you're not trying to compete, especially if you're a member of the Big Ten.
Right.
It's going to leave you far behind.
Yeah. Good point. I can't argue with you, Jim.
What's up next for you, Robert? Are you coming to any IU basketball game soon?
When's our next big game? Not for a while.
Big game? That's going to be on the road in Cincinnati versus
Xavier, yeah.
But shortly after that, of course,
I think for the time being, I'm Joe Colts.
Yeah,
I'll be all over the Colts, and
November 30th.
Out to Dustin's Pacers tonight to check it out and see if Miles Turner can put two good games together. And I'll probably be writing about that. But for later in the week, I got 2 columns today in The Athletic, and later in the week I'll have something where I'm going to talk to Rick Venturi, who is kind of the patron saint of interim coaches. He was an interim coach with the Colts in '91 and the Saints in '96. And so he understands better than anybody what Jeff Saturday is going through.
Looking forward to that. The next big game, of course, would be the North Carolina game, Bob, at November 30th. And of course, you're going to be one of those big timers that come down and get me moved out of my good seat, probably.
I'll probably take your parking space too.
That you can't get because that's free coming. But yeah. So when the big timers come in, Bob and Rick, we get moved.
We parachute in, and we act like we know what the guys who've been there every day know.
They come in a helicopter,
right?
Well, they've got a special landing pad right out front, red carpet, walk them in. Actually, I think they carry them in
our way.
Exactly, brother. I cannot thank you enough. As always, look forward to seeing you some point. My golf clubs are in the closet, man. My season's done.
I got one more round tomorrow.
I'm out.
All right.
Appreciate you, bud. Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. Make sure you go there. You're a subscriber. He's got a couple of pieces out today, right now, to go read. We've got lots more coming up here on the program today. Is Kyle Neddenriep's going to join us, Rick Bozich. We've got IU basketball to talk about and plenty more. Hartford's basketball coach quitting on the season opener. We'll talk about that when we come back as well. More. Brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality and Go Team. Make sure you go there. Sign up, start earning WOW rewards today. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal.
Hey, John, when are we running the podcast this week?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay. I was gonna say we should run the recruiting pitch on the show on Friday.
All right, yeah, we'll do that. That'll be good to have with Jeff, and I think Derek Jackson's going to come on Friday as well.
Nice.
The whole football crew can witness the Mitchell Page pitch.
There we go.
Hey, I don't know what he's talking about.
I can't hear what he said.
Yeah, what about it? What are you talking about? Are you talking about DJ? Yeah, DJ's coming on Friday at the starting the second half of Red Zone.
Oh, that's gonna be tough for him.
We owed him a time to come on because honestly, I should have had him on again a couple weeks ago, and I totally forgot about it. No, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. It's not like we're negative all the time during the last segments on Friday.
No, I just bet. He's always Mr. Positive on the.
I'm curious what his thoughts are. I mean, we haven't really talked to him since I don't think we've talked to him since things have gone really downhill. So we'll see what his thoughts are on.
You know what?
Let's be honest. They went downhill in the
Nebraska game was the beginning of the end. I guess you can say Cincinnati was, but
you know what's crazy? No team a week after a team that has played Nebraska, when they beat Nebraska, the week later they lose.
Is that still the case?
That's still the case because Illinois beat Nebraska 2 weeks ago. Illinois lost to Michigan State.
That's hilarious.
So Minnesota's going to lose to Northwestern.
What is Nebraska's record now?
They're 3-6, I think, just like Indiana.
Yep.
It's weird to think that, like, let's just say Indiana won their two, and they're not going to, won both their trophy games. They'll be 7-5 or 5-7, excuse me. Which I mean it's not good, but it's not where we thought they'd be. But
if they got to 5-7, it would give you
Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It's Wednesday, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. It could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Great IU fan as well, and a friend and a fan of Indiana Sports Beat. Appreciate Cheryl. Great person. Although she still has not picked up my glasses from that golf course. Last night, the IU women opened, I think that was their season opener, wasn't it? Number 11, yes. Indiana, 4 people, 4 in double figures. And how about freshman Yarden Garzon? Tim mentioned this earlier. On her debut. How about that? You're getting 19 points from a freshman making their debut on a team that has All-Americans. Grace Berger, Mackenzie Holmes. You've got Sydney Parrish. I knew this team was better. I said it. And it's hard to say that for a team that lost Allie Patberg and lost, daggone it. Well, 3 of them. They lost that Hillary Cardano little guard and Alexa Gulbe. You lose 3 starters off of a good team, I think, and this team is better. I think this team is better. They're a different team.
It's a new era of Indiana women's basketball, and Terry Morin's really good at identifying and developing talent. So, I mean, I don't want to say it's shocking that somebody comes in as a freshman and has a big game, but it's to do it on that stage in Assembly Hall. I mean, it's impressive. Like this, there may not be this season right now could be potentially, I mean, one of the best combinations in terms of the basketball teams, women's and men's.
There's no potential. It's
but
already,
I'm saying
there's been
right.
no time where they both were ranked in the preseason, so it's already starting
really?
out.
I didn't know that.
Wow. But yeah, they just a good. They're just solid. Grace Berger passed Jenny DeMuth to become 12th on the all-time scoring list with 1,500. See, now she's not going to end up as the all-time leading scorer, but she is going to end up as the all-time best player in the history of that program, period, without question in my mind. So congratulations to the women's team getting that win. It's going to be fun watching them play. They're going to just do it. They take on UMass Lowell Friday night, 7:00. So check them out. Congratulations to them. Let's see. Oh yeah. Hartford. Did you look that up? The coach at Hartford, John Gallagher, resigns. 2 years ago, they were in the tournament. So this is not like he's not had talent there. But he resigned the day before the season started, I believe. Yeah, on Monday, the eve of the first game of the season, which is going to be the first at Division I. But this is not a nefarious situation on the coach's side. You have to love what he's done, because I think it's the only way you can truly get the attention. I hate it for the players. But in his letter, Gallagher said the school has consistently undermined the program to the point to where safety and well-being has been jeopardized. He cited a preseason scrimmage at Dartmouth in late October when one of his players was injured and wasn't immediately tended to because the school did not even send a trainer with the team. My high school sends trainers with pretty much most sports teams. My high school. The university the university disputes Gallagher's claim, saying in a statement they were full of inaccuracies. The safety of our students is always a top priority. The statement from Dartmouth scrimmage, he referred university confirmed there would be athletic training on site to assist both UHart and Dartmouth, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Gallagher's departure comes as they're preparing to transfer to Division III after the season. I thought that this was going to be their first in Division I. What the hell? Oh, the school's last in Division I.
Well, they're going from
they're
D1
moving.
to D3.
How do you do that?
That's a great.
That's
question.
like being a 6A school and say, hey, let me go down and play 4A for a while.
Here's what it is, though. The biggest difference is D3. You are not permitted to provide any scholarships. So I'm guessing they're doing away with all athletic scholarships.
There you go.
Yep.
And that goes in line with what this coach is saying. They sound like about a bunch of tight asses, to be honest with you.
Yep.
There was a lot more that he had said in an article I read yesterday, that I'm not seeing in this one. That was on The Athletic.
Yeah, he said that the school also didn't provide him with a card basically to purchase meals for the team when they were on the road.
They refused to give them a card for road meals and all that stuff. I mean, you go to, when I travel to all the IU games, which of course we're talking about a Big Ten school, not Howard or whatever, but man, the meals are waiting for these guys when they come out of the locker rooms.
Yep.
Stocked up, ready to go for them to get on the bus, etc. High schools, again, high school teams have that stuff prepared and ready. It's just, yeah. Oh, well, it is.
Let me tell you, as a former D3 athlete myself, even we had meals at the ready before and after events, practices. Like that's not and we always had the card for our coaches to purchase meals for us. That was never a problem. So this isn't the difference between D1 and D3. It's the difference between doing what's right and, like you said, Jim, being a tight ass, basically.
Have they ever said why the cause of death for Coy Gibbs, the son of Joe Gibbs and father of Ty Gibbs?
Yeah, I have not seen a cause other than just died in his sleep on after
Probably
I'm
gonna have to assume a heart attack or something, but he was only 49.
Yeah.
Crazy. Feel bad for that kid because obviously he's very talented, but boy, is he not liked. He thinks he in the race before the Xfinity Championship, in which he would go on to win, he took his teammate out of the lead. Not only out of the lead, out of the race, and out of the championship.
Yep. Yeah, and he ended up winning the championship, and it was, I don't know if anybody saw, but Coy Gibbs did have a final press conference in which he was very supportive of his. I mean, obviously it's a father-son. He's very supportive of his son. It's very, I guess, kind of heartbreaking just the support, like going from one high to the other. I mean, he had just won the NASCAR Xfinity Series championship, and then, that was a tough day all the way around. And then,
well, at least he got to go out happy. Bush. I mean, he was happy. I mean, he was happy when so I guess if you're going to go, even though that was way too young, that's it. Let's see. Make sure we're not missing any good comments. Hey, Bobby, that's a new name. Haven't seen you on here. Appreciate you. Where are you from? Hearsay is the Colts' biggest problem. I don't know. Hearsay wants to win, man. And he's got the money to win, and he knows that he has a program that has and can win. So I get it, but at the same time, you can't just make herky-jerky changes and.
Well, I mean, It's been the same for Jim Irsay as it has been for the Pacers. I mean, for a while there, they just tried to piecemeal teams that they thought would get to the playoffs, and maybe if they got the right piece, at some point you just gotta. I don't want to say tank, but you got to throw it all away. You got to do something. Now it looked like in the offseason the Colts made. Bob was right. They made all the right moves that you would think would put them in contendership. Did not happen, and so now you've got to basically start from scratch. So I think Jim Irsay has that same idea. I think the problem is Mr. Ballard. I think that's the biggest issue the Colts have right now.
Well, he'll be gone soon, just like we are after this to this break right now. We've got to do that. And don't forget, brought to you by our great friends down in Louisville, Southern Indiana area. If you're looking for a home in the Floyd, Clark, Harris, and Scott counties or in Louisville, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services have served that community for 3 decades, and they know exactly how to get you into the home you want. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore. Yo, Daniel, thank you,
Kyle,
man.
But he has been reminded, so.
Well, New Jersey.
Daniel, up in New Jersey.
New Jersey. You know who we haven't seen in the chat in a while? What'd you say?
I do not.
The porn bots or whatever they are.
Oh, now you jinxed it.
Now, as soon as you say that.
Yeah, here we
What do
go.
you think they're just going to hear us say the word and it's going to show up in droves?
They've got it. They've got it tapped.
I promise you, they probably it's just certain words. Bam! You said porn. Boom.
I'll take the blame if they show up in the chat today.
Just because your
I wonder
history is
that's a great point
of Pornhub.com.
Oh, for sure.
That's a great point by Jim, though. I wonder if there are certain words that trigger it.
Well, we're gonna find out if they.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
What? It's something I never thought about it. I'm giving you credit.
I'm just saying. On my phone.
Oh, here we go.
If I mention, let's say I mention a tailor-made stealth driver. The next thing I know, I'm going to see commercial or ad after ad for tailor-made stealth drivers.
100%.
I'll tell you what, I don't understand. I keep getting these ads for the solar energy crap, and I never talk about that stuff.
By the way, in big cities, this was going on when I was in college. They used to do it. There's electronic billboards in bigger cities. Used to be able to track data on your phone, and they would see what your Google searches were, and it would pop up certain advertisements that had been paid, so that way it would catch your attention on the side of the road. That's a real thing that happened in like 2008.
Here's a great point by Sean that we'll pick up. When people don't get, while basketball is the more successful, they are not. Football is the engine that drives the train in sports, period. HomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Back Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Wednesday, high atop the 18th fairway here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star joins us now. Kyle, how are you, sir?
Hey, good morning. How are you guys?
Good. Got college basketball underway as high school football is getting closer to coming to a close. Before I get to that, though, how about your boy Luke Brown the other night for Stetson with 27 points in the upset of Florida State?
Yeah, that was I didn't get to see any of that. I saw the highlights of it though, and looked like they were setting him up nicely. And Luke Brown can obviously stroke it from the 3-point line. So yeah, that was cool to see. I watched a little bit of tried to watch a little bit here and there. Saw Iowa and Tony Perkins from Lawrence North. He is definitely becoming an all-around guard. Always good defender, but man, offensively, defensively, I saw him this summer, and he's very motivated this year to have a good year for Iowa. So it was fun to see him playing really well, and he's improved a ton in his time there. And he's a really good player in high school, runner-up Mr. Basketball to Anthony Leal. But I was very impressed with how he looked. Was that Monday night?
And it just goes to show you that, and this is not a knock or negative, but just pointing out, Mr. Basketball, Anthony Leal not getting the minutes at IU where Tony Perkins is going out and having a solid career starting. I know a lot of people always wonder, it's like, man, how did IU not get this guy, not get that guy? It's just how the recruiting world goes. Braden Smith, he had a nice little debut for Purdue. They're full of IU guys, so it's gonna be a fun season. Indiana had their season opener the other night. I know you don't follow cover IU or Purdue, but the players, Purdue is just chock full of Indiana high school kids like Braden Smith, and it's going to be interesting because Indiana has been one of the teams that's mentioned at the top. Purdue is kind of falling just below the radar a little bit, but I think they're going to be tough as nails because they've got Mount Edie to go along with a bunch of really good basketball players. But it's going to be interesting to see Purdue has just become the Indiana, the state team of sorts right now.
Well, yeah, we were having one of our super team photo shoots last night, so we had a lot of the top guys there. And Logan Imes from Zionsville, and he's going to Penn State. But I'd seen a couple clips of Braden, and I was like, man, are you surprised Braden's starting and all that? And he said, no, it's I'm not at all. I haven't played against him. I knew how good he was, and and Logan's, they play high level AAU and high level, so it's. To him, it's like, no, I mean, he knew perfectly what he was capable of doing. Said he's the hardest guy he's ever had to guard, So, but yeah, Purdue's really, and probably even more beyond the in-state thing. I think Matt Painter just kind of knows he's kind of somewhat cracked the code on recruiting somewhat and knowing the type of not only the type of players to fit his system, but the type of maybe even more importantly, the type of personality and type of fit as far as a program goes that he's looking for. And in the last decade or so, they've really figured that out. I mean, obviously you have to have a certain level of talent, to play at that level, but really they've done a nice job of finding pieces that fit what they want to do, those unselfish type of players. And of course, not everybody's going to end up being that way, but they're hitting a pretty high percentage, I think, in the last decade or so on that front.
You got Fletcher Lawyer, another freshman in the starting lineup for Purdue. A little surprising there to have two of those freshmen starting, but that's either good news or bad news for Purdue.
I think it'll be both. I mean, realistically, it's probably not ideal to have both those guys in the starting lineup, because that means you need them right now. But it also shows that they're obviously in there for a reason. And I honestly thought Lawyer was probably the better case scenario to play right away, just because of his strengths are going to fit. He's 6'4" or so, 6'5", and he's can really, really shoot it. So. With Braden, I thought maybe, and plus he was sort of injured at the end of the season. So, coming off that, how would he be? But, that's been several months ago, but you just didn't know for sure. Like, hey, he might have to get his feet wet first and then kind of dive in. But yeah, to be starting both those guys, says a lot about the two of them, I think. And and we'll see. I mean, it's not like we know how the season's going to play out either, but I think they're going to put them in position to succeed. And knowing both those guys like I do, from covering them, I feel like they're going to go in there and ready to compete at a pretty high level, and they already are. So, from that standpoint, it's not surprising.
Well, and Indiana's recruiting has played a major role in this. Obviously, Indiana used to be heavily involved in any and every major Indiana recruit that there was. That has not been the case for the last couple of years. But Mike Woodson and his staff last year, it just wasn't enough time for them to start getting. And I think that they have pinpointed 2025, the 2025 class and beyond, as being able to really start to get back into some of these better Indiana kids, Trent Sisley, Jalen Harrelson, those types of guys. But right now it has been Purdue, and Matt Painter is being seen as, I call it the state coach. But Woody is the NBA coach, as long as, and I am pretty confident that when you start to see guys like Jalen Hood-Schifino, Malik Renew, those guys are definitely going to go on to the NBA. And that has not been a lot of the case at Purdue. Of course, you had Jaden Ivey. But once Indiana starts, they've got to have success. Then I think that they're going to start getting a little bit more recruiting from the state. But Mike has shown he's going to go everywhere and recruit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it matters where you're getting. I know that's something that
not if you're winning. If you're winning, maybe it doesn't.
It doesn't matter. I mean, in my opinion, I think that's too overblown sometimes. But it only becomes a factor when you're losing, and then you're also not getting the in-state kids if you're IU. And that's kind of what happened with Crean. I think at the end of his tenure was like, now we're losing, and we haven't been getting the top guys. So then it becomes a perception issue. If you're winning with five kids from Florida, then who cares? I mean, that's my take on it. And you're not going to get every in-state kid. You're not going to get, it's just not the reality of it. And some of them you're not going to want. They may not fit what you do. You could argue there's probably been guys who've come there from the state in recent years who it's like, what they probably would have been better off going somewhere else, and so I don't think it's as cut and dry as, we got to lock down the state and get all the top, to me, that's sort of an overblown simplification of the recruiting process. But yeah, it is a perception thing. And you do want to establish, probably more than anything, relationships in the state to where you feel like if there is a guy like a Jalen Harrelson, like we need to go have a good relationship with that staff. And even if he doesn't come to us, we got to do everything in our power to get a guy like that, because he will be able to help you. There's no doubt in my mind. And so we'll try. I think there is importance to it, but for people to say, you're not going to care if they're ranked fifth in the country and they're starting five guys from outside the state. That's not an issue. I don't think that's even realistic. But when you lose, it does open you up for that, I would say.
Absolutely. The football playoffs for high school continue. We're getting deep now, as this is the regional round coming up, correct?
Yeah. So, regional round. There's 24 games through the 6 classes on Friday, and I think 1 game Saturday.
Starting to make it easier for you, cutting down on the games that there are to be played.
Yeah, it's kind of nice to cut down a little bit. You see that list of teams go down, and it's it's a little bit of a relief because there's so much basketball coverage coming. So trying to get all that set up, and it's always November's always a kind of a slog to get through. But yeah, there'll be some really good games this week. New Pal and Roncalli in 4A is number 1 versus number 2. You got Brownsburg Cathedral is 2 versus 3 in 6A. You've got HSC's number 1 playing Westfield in 6A. That's Westfield's been to the state finals the last 2 years. So a lot of really good top matchups this weekend. Yeah, Cathedral Brownsburg. I said they're 2 versus 3 in 6A. So that should be should be a really good game as well. And then you got Center Grove and Warren playing in the other side of that 6A, or the other Southern 6A game. So that should also be a really good game. So, you could have Center Grove Cathedral or, Center Grove Brownsburg or whatever next week. Or even Warren. I think Warren, they got a quarterback who just got eligible a couple weeks ago who transferred from Beech Grove, who's kind of giving them a shot in the arm. So, should be all those 6A games should be really good this weekend.
I'm trying to look to see what happened down the southwest part of the state. Evansville, Evansville Memorial, if they're still going, and Wrights, I know that they were undefeated.
Mater Day's playing Triton Central in 2A, Evansville Mater Day. And Wrights is out. Memorial is I'm trying to remember who's all playing still down that way. I think Memorial and
possibly Evansville North. I can't pull it up, man. I had it and I lost it.
Memorial's playing East Central. They're playing East Central at home. East Central's got to travel 216 miles to go play Evansville Memorial. So you get some of those type of matchups too. But East Central is really good. That's another team, I think, depending on how New Pal Roncalli goes. I think East Central probably wins that and then plays the winner of New Pal Roncalli. And they about beat Roncalli, lost in a close game earlier this year. So they're another really good 4A team. 4A's really loaded this year.
Well, then we got Castle down in Evansville that's hosting Bloomington South, who beat Bloomington North last week. So
right.
Some matchups there to keep an eye on as well. When does high school basketball get started?
The girls are underway a couple weeks in. The boys start the 21st. They just started practice Monday. So teams are probably through their tryout process now and starting real practices today if they haven't already. So, I was actually out at we did our super team shoot at Ben Davis last night, and they were as I got in there, they were doing their cuts, which is always, for a school like that, you've got kids who are really good who end up getting cut, unfortunately. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. They're basically into their first week of practice right now.
Also, Mr. Football coming down to the wire, I guess. When is that? Does that take place after the season?
Yeah, I had a story on that today, just kind of looking at the potential candidates. I think Drake Bowen, probably from Andrean, is the guy to beat at this point, I would say. He's plays both ways for Andrean. He was Gatorade Player of the Year last year, going to Notre Dame. I think he's probably the top name, especially if they win it again. But, you have some other names out there, and, people want to check that out. That got posted this morning.
Absolutely. I'm sitting here looking at it now. So I'll go to the Indy Star and check that out and much more that Kyle has up. What else you got going this weekend, man? Just covering high school football?
Yeah, I'll be at the Roncalli New Pal game. Got a, like I said, that Mr. Football story's out. Got the story on Plainfield's, their first sectional championship in 22 years. They're playing Whiteland this weekend. I'll have a story about them and some other, lots of basketball stuff coming as well in the next week or two. So be on the lookout for that.
Is there anybody at the Star that puts out more content than you?
I don't know. Hopefully not.
I mean, I'm serious. You should get paid by the word.
Yeah, I agree.
You put that in your next contract.
I agree.
I would say. Well, brother, I cannot thank you enough as always. Get your rest because I know it's going to be a busy weekend for you.
All right, we'll do. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Make sure you give him a follow. Be a subscriber. I am. Keep local papers alive. Great stuff in there. Ooh, others see the offensive lineman, Micah Coyle. Who's that? Must be a long-lost cousin. Hey, coming up next, the great one, Rick Bozich from WDRB.com joins us. We're brought to you by Metalworks Brewing Company, located just off the square in Bloomington, caddy corner from Cabello, where I was last night. Had a great meal there. Metalworks Brewing Company loves the craft beer, art of metalworking, and being a part of the community. Help them do all that. be a part of the WOW Club, go to your Apple App Store, Google Play Store, sign up, start earning WOW rewards today. Back with Rick Bozich after this.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Hey, this is John.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rick.
How are y'all?
Great, sir. How are you doing?
Good.
It is hard to sit still where I'm at because I drank my coffee way too fast. I need to run like 7 miles.
Man,
Dunkin' Donuts right here.
I've had, this is my second cup, and I take Adderall.
Oh boy.
Prescribed. I'm prescribed, but I'm like, I'm as calm as that can be.
What do you got, Dustin?
I'm calmer than you are.
I had some dark roast outsider coffee, and I've got now some peanut butter toast.
And I've got the light roast outsider coffee.
You know what, Dustin, I will pay for it, but we need to get some outsider coffee sent to Rick.
What is outsider coffee?
Outsider.com. I don't know if it's
where I work
or not.
Oh, is it good? Where is it? What town?
They're part of On3. They're part of the On3 network in Nashville.
It's Nashville. But our coffee is it's really good. It
is really good.
Outsider, they have like little coffee shops in Nashville?
No, it's just a brand. It's organically grown coffee. It's delicious.
They just sell crap and put their name on it. Well, it's the truth because they sell all kinds of stuff. They're not making these the koozie colder thing that I bought. They're not making this coffee.
So you're in Nashville? That's where you are?
I'm in Gainesville.
Gainesville, Florida?
Yep.
Oh wow, you're stuck down there with Brockway?
I am.
I know you're watching, Kevin, because you were tweeting last week or you were making comments in the show.
We got to get Kevin back
I'm just
on.
trying to pull your chain.
And
last week you had
Kevin,
that comment about Will Richard or something, and I think Indiana would rather have Malik Reneau than Will Richard.
Renew. We learned it's Malik Renew.
Renew. I forgot. You're right.
I met Kevin's replacement, and Kevin, he dresses a lot better than you.
Todd Golden, yeah.
Say. Yes, much
get
better.
him on the show then.
Is he living in Terre Haute?
You know what? He was, and I don't know. I meant to ask him where he was living now.
And Dustin's off the beat covering the Pacers now?
Yeah.
That's
How about
true.
that change?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
With 1 week in advance tee time bookings, you just cover your card fees. Now, there is a limited number of memberships available, so go to eaglepoint.com right now and get yours today.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back on this Wednesday. We're fortunate to be joined by the great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Rick, how are you, sir?
I'm good. A little tired yesterday after getting home late from Bloomington. And
I was going to say, it's been a busy week for you. I mean, U of L playing, IU playing, all the press conferences. It's been a busy week for all of us, but especially, if you're driving back and forth.
yeah, yesterday was Scott Satterfield and Kenny Payne. Tonight is Louisville season opener against Bellarmine, which is a fascinating matchup because some people think Bellarmine has a legit chance to take them out. They're only a 9-point underdog. Kentucky and Indiana both play again tomorrow, and then we got college football this weekend. And Louisville plays basketball again on Saturday.
And then Indiana next week has one of those weeks where Friday they play at Xavier, Saturday they play football at Michigan State, and Sunday they play basketball in Indianapolis.
Miami of Ohio. Why are they playing that game in Indianapolis? Just to give the people in Indy a chance to see them play?
You know what? I guess. I guess. I don't know. I would think that if you're going to do one in Indy, well, I guess they're guaranteeing a win. It's like the old Hoosier Classic and the Indiana Classic. But I would just rather see that as being one of the marquee kind of games. But
Right.
I'm sure that will be. I mean, I don't know the Kentucky series when it comes about, if that is just going to take the place of the Kansas series, because it's just a one-off deal, home and home.
Right.
So kind of what I'm thinking there. But yeah, it is what it is. You were here for the first game. Indiana took on Morehead State the other night. They started strong, then Morehead State made it challenging, man. They were knocking down threes, but Indiana didn't force anything from outside and just kept pounding them in the middle and just ended up just easily getting a win, but it wasn't as easy at first.
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious Morehead State came in with a strategy of they're going to take as many threes as possible, and if they hit some, they could keep it close and maybe put a little game pressure on Indiana. You know, if you're expecting to win big and the other team hangs around, the longer it goes, the home team starts to feel pressure. But after that point where it was I don't remember if it was 21-21 or 22-21, whatever it was, Indiana took control, and I definitely saw a lot more good than things to worry about, because Malik Renew was tremendous as advertised. Great footwork, great touch with his left hand, tremendous sense of the game of like when to push towards the basket, when not to. Ability to finish, highly competitive. He was talking trash to the Morehead State bench. Jalen Hood-Schifino was what I thought he would be. I mean, he only scored 7 points. I don't expect him to be some guy that's going to score a bunch of points. He was
efficient, very efficient.
Very efficient. Never got sped up. Does have a good mid-range jumper. And the bench was tremendous. The bench brought energy. Geronimo and Galloway and Bates, I thought, all played pretty well. So the only thing that I would question is, and I know other people have talked about it, they beat Morehead because of their strength around the basket. Not going to be able to do that against Big Ten teams as consistently. Like to see a little bit more integration of the three-point shot into the offense, but it's only the first game.
And I asked Mike about that, Dustin, afterwards, and he's pointed out that in that particular game they were just bigger, and so there wasn't the need for it. Indiana only put up 11 in the contest, hitting 4, which actually wouldn't have been bad had that been at 4 of 10. I'm like, 40%, you'll take that. 9 of 30 for Morehead State, as they were chucking them up. More than half of their shots they put up. But we saw Miller Kopp did not score a point in the first half. I don't know, they took a shot in the first half. But in the second half, he didn't force anything, and then he caught one in transition, set his feet, busted it. There was another play, and then kind of the same thing in transition, set his feet, just drained it. And then all of a sudden he had 8 points. Bam. And so that's if you can get that, but they're going to need that out of him. He doesn't have to score 12 points a game, but I think that they need to get 6-8 points out of him every game if he's going to be on the floor like that. But they look pretty good. I think the shooting is going to be fine. Tamar Bates, his shot looked a lot better. I think that Jalen Hood-Schifino can shoot. I'm not worried about that. And if Xavier can keep his shot selection in check, I think they'll be fine shooting.
Yeah, I thought his shot selection was decent against Morehead. He just missed a couple. In fact, he missed that one drive that I thought for sure was going to go in. I agree with you. Right before Kopp hit those back-to-back threes, I think I was sitting next to Zach Osterman and said, if Kopp's going to play, they got to run some sets or do something to get shots.
Yeah, he's got to do something.
There's no reason for him to play if he's not going to get shots.
Yeah.
And his shot looked better. It was quicker. He was ready to fire. And those are the plays that I think he can really be effective. And those are the plays that demoralize defenses. I'm pretty sure at one of them it was a 3-on-2 break. So you had, I believe it was Jackson Davis was doing the rim run. Bates, I think, was coming down with the ball, and Kopp set up on the right wing, and you forced the defense to decide what are you going to defend, and they left Kopp open. They got on the ball, and it was on point the whole way. So, as I said, for a first game, that was an improvement they made from the first half to the second half to get him more involved in the offense. And that's the next element they need to add, is like those plays like that, I think psychologically really demoralize the defense.
Well, Indiana was able to obviously take advantage of its size advantage against Morehead State, and so you don't see much from the three-point line. What's going to be interesting to me is they play Bethune-Cookman Thursday, and this is a team that actually, I'm not saying they have talented size, but they do have some size on the inside. I think they've got 4 or 5 guys that are 6'9" or taller. So there's going to be a little bit of competitiveness on the inside that Indiana didn't face in its 2 exhibition games or in its season opener. So I'm interested. I don't think we're going to find out a whole lot still, but I think we'll see a little bit more about what the 3-point shooting looks like, because I don't think it's going to come quite as easy on the interior for Trace Jackson Davis, Malik Mernu, some of those other guys. I think that there's going to be at least some need to hit some 3-point shots, and Iowa 11-33 in this team just the other day. So I think we'll find out a little bit more about what Indiana's outside shooting looks like on Thursday.
Right. That's good. That's what you want in these games. You
Right.
want to play a variety of styles and be tested in a variety of ways. And I know that in game 3, which is a week from Friday, at Xavier they have Jack, is it Nunge or Nunge? How you pronounce
Nunge,
it?
yeah.
Jack Nunge.
The former Iowa guy. He's a big man, and they have another big guy who's pretty good, and you're playing on the road, and you'll have Sean Miller wanting to defend the honor of his brother, and that'll be a tough game for Indiana. And his brother,
He better worry about playing Quinnipiac if he wants to defend the honor of his brother.
I knew you. I threw that
was
one
the
right down
only-
the middle, and you knocked it out of the park, man. I told you.
Rhode
that.
Island was the only Atlantic 10 team to lose their opener, by the way.
Yeah, could be a long
Lil
year.
Rhodey.
What's their
Lil
nickname?
Rhodey.
Rhode Island. You call
the
him Lil
Rams.
Rhodey.
I call Archie Lil Rhodey. Lil Rhodey still losing openers to subpar teams since 2016.
I think Indiana State just made another 3.
And the defender has got his back to him looking for him.
We were there. Yeah.
I will never forget that.
Joey Brunk is 35 feet from the basket trying to guard a 3.
I will never forget that. I'm like, what?
Catching the screen 10 feet away from the switch.
It was great. Early signing period, Rick, starts today, I believe.
I saw Gabe Cups signed his letter this morning. I'm not sure about Ja'Kai Newton.
He is. I think that happens tomorrow.
Okay.
Scheduled to happen tomorrow. So,
Okay.
yeah, a couple of IU signees getting that done. It goes. I forget when it goes through.
It's usually a
How
week.
long lasts. I was going to say, yeah.
Usually lasts a week.
But those are the only 2 signings expected by Indiana. So get those in the book. Just administration.
At this point, I guess it makes more sense to wait until the spring. And, the last 2 years, they've been lucky to get decommitments in Bates and Renew. So whatever coaches get fired, there could be some new guys on the market. And then the transfer portal, we know there'll be hundreds of guys in the portal. So if you don't really see somebody you like who's available right now, wait for the spring. And it seems like they're really focusing on the 2024 and 2025 guys. They've had a lot of visits by guys that are juniors and sophomores.
Well, I was just talking with Kyle Neddenriep about in-state recruiting, and with the last year being the first year, they couldn't really make inroads. So now they're doing that, and it seems like the 24-25 class really in Indiana is the year that they're kind of looking at to start getting the Indiana guys, the top Indiana guys, because let's face it, too many other people, like whether it's Tom Izzo or Matt Painter, have been working with these guys for 2 years before that.
Tom Izzo has made his name on Indiana guys.
He still hasn't stopped. He pulled 1 or 2
Hooker.
out. And then now Purdue has 2 freshmen starting, Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer.
Well, they started last night against Milwaukee.
Started for them. So, which is I see. Well, it's either a good sign or a bad sign for Purdue. We'll see how it goes. But
and they beat Milwaukee pretty impressively. I mean,
So
for Indiana, the two kids in 25 that they need to get are Trent Sisley
Harrelson
from
and-
Heritage Hills, and is it Jalen Harrelson from Fishers or Hamilton?
And they're
Southeast,
working, yes, and they're
school it is.
working very hard on those two
Right.
guys.
And Harrelson's a top 10, top 15 player in the class, and Sisley's probably top 30 to top 50.
Have you seen Harrelson?
I've just seen video of him. He looks like
He's a freak. He's a freak. He's 6'7". This guy's a point guard. 6'7", looks like a freaking fullback.
Right.
It's like the athletes, Rick, today. I mean, can you imagine? Well, maybe you've seen it in the past. That there's been anomalies, but a 6'7" point guard that looks like that he could be a fullback. Man, that's a formidable guy coming down the lane. I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, it sounds like they're working as hard as they've worked on any recruit since they've been there on both those guys. Showing up at those 6 a.m. workouts, getting them on campus as many times as they can, letting them know that they want them to stay home in state. And I'm sure that the competition, especially for Harrelson, is going to be fierce. That'll be one that draws in Kentucky, Duke, Carolina, all those. And Sisley, I know Matt Painter's working just as hard as Mike Woodson is. So it'll be tough. And Caleb says Brandon Newman, their most important guard. I watched only about 10 minutes of Purdue last night. I saw a little bit of Trey Kaufman-Red, the kid from Silver Creek. He looked okay. And they had First and they have Edie. I mean, I picked Purdue to finish probably third in the Big Ten. I had them in my preseason top 25. I think even though they lost all the dudes they got, Matt Painter has earned the respect for doing it year after year after year that his team will be competitive.
The thing that would concern me about, first of all, well, I mean, it's the first game, but they did not, in my opinion, shoot the ball very well last night, at least early on. That would be a concern. But the one thing that I always am fearful of with Matt Painter is he usually doesn't say a lot. And at Big Ten Media Days, he said, we thought we had a team good enough to win the Big Ten regular season, win the Big Ten tournament, and get to the Final Four, and we didn't do any of that. So I feel like there's going to be a very direct.
He did have that team.
He did.
Yeah, right. But what I'm saying is I feel like this year he said, what did he say? That our talent outweighed our production. And so I just think that I think this has been a very productive offseason. It's kind of the same question with Indiana. I don't know if the shooting is going to be there this year. I don't know that they have the guys that can shoot in order to they might be top 4 still, but be a contender.
You have to understand though, still they're going to be tough in every game.
Purdue
Indiana in the front court. Because they've got Race Thompson, Trace Jackson Davis, and Malik Renew. All three of these guys are starters. And Indiana's averaging, which I know they haven't played anyone of substance, but it's over 60% from the field. And if you took Xavier Johnson out, it could possibly be close to 75 or higher percent right now from the field. They're being very efficient, which I like. I like the fact that they didn't overshoot from the 3-point line the other night and take their number down, and they're efficient and they're finding the ball movement was incredible. And not just from between one guy or two guys. I mean, Jalen Hood-Schifino to Trace to Race, or to Race to Trey, from Jalen Hood to or Xavier. I saw the ball touch 3 hands quickly more than one time. And if you can do that, you're gonna confuse defenses and score a lot of points.
Yeah, I mean, they're deeper, they're more athletic, they're longer, they're more talented than they've been. They've got proven veteran big men, and they got a proven point guard who did it last year in the Big Ten. They have all the elements to compete for the Big Ten title. Will they win it or not? I don't know. You never know who's going to get injured, how the team chemistry is going to unfold. We haven't seen any of these other teams to know how good they are.
Illinois,
I mean, they need to be in, and they need to prove they can do some things they haven't done in recent years, which is beat Wisconsin, beat Rutgers, beat some of these teams they haven't been able to beat. So we'll see how that goes. And we all know last year, they weren't great on the road, and the teams that usually win a conference championship win road games in some tough spots. So, they got to prove they can do it. And we've talked about this before. Those 4 non-conference games they have, I would doubt if there's anybody in the country that has a tougher group of 4 games, strictly because only one of them's at home, and that's the North Carolina game, which is the toughest one in the group. Playing at Xavier, that's a tough one. Playing at Kansas, we know is tough. And then Arizona, although it is a neutral site game, it's certainly closer to Arizona's campus in Las Vegas than it is to Indiana. So they're challenging themselves considerably in the non-conference. And that's, I think, when we see those 4 games, we'll have a better view on really how good they are.
Yeah, and they'll get the chance for that early, as you mentioned. Xavier, 3rd game in,
Right.
coming up around the
Week
corner.
from Friday, it's like a 5 or 6 o'clock game too, right?
Yeah, that pulled up. Where the heck was that? Xavier up here top. Yeah, 6 p.m.
Friday night, 6 o'clock. So enjoy going through rush hour traffic in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Go early.
Yeah, maybe stop by Jeff Ruby's afterwards.
Or Montgomery Inn. Take your pick.
Now, what's Montgomery Inn?
That's Ribs, famous ribs place. Tommy Lasorda loved it. Every Major League Baseball team always made a trip over there, and a lot of them, that was the food they ate on the plane on the way home.
A great Tommy Lasorda. When I was a young pup, working for CBS Sports, doing production assistant, working a Cincinnati Reds Los Angeles Dodgers game when Tommy Lasorda was the manager. And it was we were in the clubhouse, and the manager's offices back then were tiny.
Yeah,
I'm talking like 5 foot by 5 foot, just enough room to put a desk in.
Right.
And I remember Tommy Lasorda sitting behind the desk while
in his underwear.
He probably could have been. That didn't catch my attention, because the whole time during the quick little post-game presser that we're doing, he's just eating away. I mean, he was just, and it could have been those ribs. I always thought it was wings.
No, it's Montgomery Inn ribs.
Wings wasn't a big thing back then, so it was that's probably exactly what it was. But man, he was going to town, never even slowed up. What didn't matter the question. It was like he hadn't eaten in 6 days.
Next time you go to the grocery store, when you go to the barbecue section, and look for Montgomery Inn barbecue sauce.
I didn't know. I will
enjoy
do
that. Montgomery Inn. People,
I'll
any viewers of the show, send us a note if you like Montgomery Inn. I'm sure there's people out there that have been there. I'm
going to have BB's check that out.
All right.
Have that pulled in. Quickly switching gears a little bit. Football. IU is in a horrible position. Sean points out, according to College Raptor, IU football revenue is over almost $34 million, which is 12th in the Big Ten. IU basketball, 15.5, so it's half. That's why people don't understand. Even as bad as IU football is the engine that drives the train, period, in college athletics. And that's why it's so important to the Big Ten, because if you look at that number for Indiana, man, you could, 5 times that probably for a Michigan, for an Ohio State, for a Penn State.
For sure.
And so the numbers are staggering. But as Sean points out, they can't allow the football program to fall behind, because that is a money maker. I think that Indiana is going to wait to 2024 to when they start getting the higher money in from the Big Ten network. And if you're going to make a complete effort at that sport, then that's when they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a talk about coaching changes. That's what we always hear. There was another coach fired this week, Jeff Scott at South Florida. And
Tom Allen was mentioned as a candidate for that job.
Any significant and substantial change at Indiana is going to have to start from the administration. And I'm not even talking about Scott Dolson. I'm talking about from the president's office and the board of trustees. They have to decide, to get serious about football in a lot of different ways. And until that changes, I mean, Indiana's going to be operating at the way it is now at a significant disadvantage. Don't have the facilities, don't have the infrastructure, don't have the fan support against so many of the teams they go against, don't have the NIL money. on and on. Don't have the recruiting, base. Any good players in Indiana aren't going to Indiana. They're going to Iowa or Ohio State or Kentucky or even Louisville. They've got to address this as an institution, not just on a small scale of the football program itself.
And let me tell you, I texted Jim this as soon as she was hired. Pamela Whitten understands how important sports are to a university. She came from Kennesaw State. I was around there the time she was there.
Right.
She was at every home basketball game. She was at every home football game. She made it a point because she knew how important athletics were, and she wasn't afraid to make some tough decisions. I think that that's also going to translate at Indiana. Now, whether or not that means Indiana's looking for a new football coach at the end of the season or not, but I think she will apply the pressure if she needs to, because when you look at the opportunity to gain money, and nobody's asking Indiana to be a Big Ten East powerhouse. They're asking for them to get consistently to a bowl game, not get embarrassed when they play Rutgers or Nebraska or some of these other schools. And I think I think at Indiana, that's incredibly feasible, especially when you look at Maryland's gotten better. They're 6-3 right now. You look at Illinois was able to take a big step. I know they play in the Big Ten West. They're not as dominant, but right now they're leading the division. So I think that the leadership is in the right place. I don't know that you could say that a few years ago, but it's going to be interesting here in these next year and a half, 2 years to see the direction of the football program.
Well, the funny thing is, y'all mentioned the chairman of the board for Indiana Board of Trustees is Quinn Buckner, obviously a stalwart from the 76 team and just IU athletics in general. The vice chairman, though, is Harry Gonzo. If you don't know who that is the quarterback from the 1967 Rose Bowl team. So,
yes, it is. Well, Quinn Buckner played football 2 years at IU, too. Don't forget that.
Oh, my God, I forgot it. So you would think that you have the guys in place that and Harry's a retired attorney. So you would think these guys know, man, we've got to do this. They've got to do this. And maybe they just coming out of COVID didn't have the money, but that is not going to be the case come 2024.
I don't know. It's a tough situation. And the game Saturday was, not competitive. The game this Saturday is not going to be competitive. So, at some point you got to start thinking ahead. Like how do you market this football program for next season? I mean, how do you get people excited about it? What are you going to do?
How do you keep the players?
How do you keep the players? Yeah. I would think that I don't know. It's hard. That's why it's a decision for the people at the very top of the administration to figure it out.
Hey, were you a candidate for the Indianapolis Colts interim coaching job?
No, I'm a baseball guy.
Well, I know, but I mean, you have as much coaching experience in college and the NFL as Jeff Saturday does.
I've never seen anything like that before. I can't explain that one.
I think it's just I think it's a tank, a half ploy to tank A, but B, I think it's away from I'm not even going to hire a real coach this year. We're going to wait till the season's over, then they hire a coach. I don't think Jeff Saturday ends up being the head guy. That would just be more shocking than this was shocking, and that was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I asked somebody. I said, "Where is he coaching?" And they said, "Well, he's like high school or something." Was he?
He was on ESPN,
and he was an ESPN analyst. Yeah.
What's up next for you, sir?
Bellarmine, Louisville tonight, 9:00, ACC
That'll
Network.
Be a fun game to watch, man.
You're a college basketball fan, tune in to see how that goes.
I'm telling you, Rick Bellarmine is a team that should have been in the NCAA tournament last year. They didn't get in just because that was their first year of Division I. But Scotty Davenport has done a masterful job there, and they're good. They're fun to watch, man.
And he's got an Indiana All-Star on the team. Pete Suter, who played at Carmel last year, was on the Indiana All-Stars. Indiana looked at him, I think, when Archie was there, but they never really offered a scholarship. And Scotty Davenport's really high on Pete Suter, thinks he can be one of Bellarmine's best players in a couple of years. So that'll be fun. This weekend, Louisville's at Clemson. We're not going to that game, but Louisville's shown that, you can figure it out. They were dead in the water a few weeks ago. Lost to Boston College. They were 2-3. They've won 4 straight. And they're only a 7-point underdog at Clemson. So strange thing.
It'll be a fun weekend. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you're following him. If you're not, you're crazy. He's a Hall of Famer. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you so much.
Have a great weekend.
See you soon.
Bye.
The great Rick Bozich. I love having him on. Conversations are always stupendous. We've got to take a very quick break, and we'll be back to finish it out here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting. Yes, Ross, he does, but I'm not saying that he thinks that they will. They absolutely can beat Louisville. There's no question in my mind.
No, he's saying, does he I think he's trying to joke, saying Bellarmine's the better team. Does he think Louisville can beat Bellarmine?
Oh, I'm sorry. I misread it. Yeah. I misread that. My bad, Ross. Pretty funny.
Robert said he got his outsider hat. You have to let me know how you like it.
There you
and
go.
Also, on that note.
Oh, he's leaving.
Adios.
Always a quitter.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got to get you a microphone.
All right.
That's the only thing, because a microphone would take away the bouncy sound of being in like an open room.
You don't sound bad, Dustin, but
no. It's not the. It's just that. It is that and only that. It just makes the sound fuller.
Gotcha.
So I'll have to think about it.
Sounds like a plan. I will see you gentlemen tomorrow.
Hasta mañana.
Yeah.
Oh, well, hell yeah. I'm sure he already does. It's a good point. But
probably not, though, because they don't have the punishment that they're.
Well, but where would he, unless he has got someone he could beat out on the Indiana team?
Caleb Glenn will probably start immediately with Louisville. He doesn't regret anything.
Well, that's probably true. No definite dates yet. Heath? We'll talk about all these comments.
Here you go. Plenty of comments to go through.
Hey, we didn't have any
sound
yesterday. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, God dang it. Mike Whitson's on right now. God damn. Son of a bitch.
Oh, he is.
Fuck.
I'm sure you got Hoosier guys doing it, but I understand you want to be there too.
Well, I was going to take it live.
Oh. All right, here we go.
Or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Not sure, John, if you can pick that up. I think I sent that. Oh, I'll forward you the link. I'm not sure if you can pull it out or not, but Mike Woodson is actually on a Zoom right now that I'm missing out on because I'm here with you guys. But where else would I rather be? Get that sent over to John. I'm not sure you can do anything with it, but if we can, that would be awesome. Your name's not coming up. Come on, man. All right.
There's too little time in the show. We'll do this next time this comes up during the show.
Well,
because this takes this, and I know we're talking over the air about what we should be doing on the show, but if this doesn't work, then we're wasting our time. We're wasting air.
Yeah. Well, got nothing else to do.
Let's go through those comments. You said you had some comments to go through.
Yeah. Let's see. Put that out of my way. The second unit looked great the other night. I agree, Chris. I hate calling it a second unit, but I guess that's what it is. But yeah, they're everyone that's coming in is playing a role that it looks like they're ready for, which is very important. Looks like they're embracing, and that's very, very important. Tamar Bates really has been important when Shafino's out there running that group. Trey Galloway has done a good job as a backup. Jordan Geronimo is been able to show some offense from his defense at times. So yeah, they're just so much stronger and deeper. That's the great thing. He says, does having a second unit make Woody looks lazy on subbing? When do you do the 5 for 5 subs? That's not always going to be your best. No, but I don't think he always does that. Like I said, Shafino is been running the second unit at some point. He's the head of it. It just depends on the situation. If he happens to pick up a foul and has to come out, it's always situational. I don't think you're going to see complete 5 guys, but it also depends on the time of the game. If you have control of the game, it depends on who they have in, the matchups. There's just so many different scenarios that matter to that. Let's see. No, I don't think Indiana's going to have to worry about getting to face Low Roadie in the first round. That would be funny. Heath says Penn State hit 18 threes. Wow, that's nice. Yeah, you definitely have the best front court in the Big Ten. One of the best in the country. No question about that. Free throw shooting, that was kind of mind-boggling because Jalen Hood-Schifino was 1 of 4 the other night. That's not someone, he's not going to do that very often. Probably just a loss of focus for a moment or two. But that's it. Michael confirming Montgomery in. Good stuff. I'm going to have to check that out. Fred says there was one on the north side of Indy years ago, but closed. Yes, Rick is always a candidate for winner of the day. Robert says NIL needs to get going for IU football. Well, I agree, but that a lot of that depends on the fans. How badly do the fans want IU football to do well? Then they have to get behind the football program with NIL money. The basketball program is going to succeed. There's no question. And then that's the thing about Hoosiers for Good. They're trying to do that. They're trying to equal that out. Again, that's why if you're giving to NIL, it needs to be to Hoosiers for Good. I did notice in looking through a publication's NIL metrics that they had for players. I'm trying to remember where Trace Jackson Davis was. He was number 1 for IU, but he was at like 56th overall. I think it was maybe $900,000 was his estimated NIL value. Then I looked at the IU players as a whole, and there were a couple of football players up there. DJ Matthews was up there, and Sean Shivers was up there. His value was like $60,000. That's a little surprising, but that could have been something that he had set up himself. See, I'm trying to find that. Still trying to find these numbers. They were very interesting.
Minute and a half.
Trying to get this, but we'll get more onto that tomorrow. But looking at tomorrow, can't wait as always. Thursday, Matt Taylor is going to join us. Chris Denari. Let's see. I think we have Kyler Staley also.
Yep.
So we'll get a preview for Indiana's basketball game tomorrow night. And then hopefully the pregame basketball or postgame shows are starting tomorrow night. We thought that was going to happen the other night, but we had a scheduling issue. And so hopefully we'll find out tomorrow. But I hope you guys have a great day. I can't thank you enough. I cannot thank, of course, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic. As always, Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star and the Hall of Famer Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Thanks to John, the producer, and Dustin Schutte. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. We're back to do this all again tomorrow. I can't wait. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.